Okay, let's switch over to the Indianapolis Colts. There's some exciting stuff going on with the Colts. Of course, it's the offseason, kind of a lull. We got the Pacers to talk about. We've got the NBA to talk about. We've got college basketball to talk about. Basketball's really in the heat of it. And I believe this week, spring training is going to start in the MLB. So there's a lot going on, but the NFL still reigns supreme in America. The Colts still reign supreme in my heart personally. Let's talk about the Myles Garrett situation. Could the Colts make a move for Myles Garrett? He's requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. He will likely get his wish. The question is, where is he going? And there's a lot of options, right? The consensus baseline for a price for Myles Garrett appears to be 2 first-round picks, right? Based on my research, it seems like if you're trying to grab Myles Garrett, you have to give up 2 first-round picks, and preferably ones, of course, that are close in proximity to the current year. This would give Cleveland multiple opportunities to spark their rebuilds and potentially grab a valuable player on top of that, right? So one thing I'm seeing is something along the lines of, you know how Pat McAfee kind of called out the entire Colts organization and called out a ton of players, guys like Zaire Franklin said that he didn't want him on the team anymore. This is an opportunity for the Colts to maybe give up a quality defensive piece and 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, which is a lot to ask for, but this allows Cleveland to, again, spark their rebuild. They can grab a quarterback at some point, grab another role player, a skill position player, something like that, offensive line, and then grab a valuable player on top of that to sort of fill in the gaps of this defense or fill in the gaps of their offense, whatever it may be. Someone young, a surefire success to guarantee a return on investment. I have seen 2 trade ideas between the Colts and the Browns circulating around Indianapolis Colts circles perhaps recently. The first one is that the Colts would give up for Myles Garrett 2 first-round picks and Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye would be that young, valuable player that the Browns could use to fill the gap of whatever position he would be in, whoever that player is. In this case, is Kwity Paye and 2 first-rounders. Paye had 8 sacks this past season. This is a tall order for me, right? In terms of whether or not this is actually going to happen, I think giving up Kwity Paye and 2 first-rounders is a lot. Think about what those picks could be, right? If things go awry, maybe that's our future quarterback in 2026. I don't know if that is fully worth it. And the pass rush to me is already it's not totally fine, but the pass rush to me is already good enough to where I couldn't justify selling the future for a guy like Myles Garrett if you're adding Kwity Paye into that conversation. But that's kind of what we'd be looking at, is 2 first-rounders and a guy like Kwity Paye, if not Kwity Paye himself. That to me is too much to ask for. Right? If I'm making this trade, and I don't know everything, but if I'm making this trade, I'd be hesitant. Because think about what those 2 first-round picks could be. In this draft, it could be Tyler Warren, right? It could be a safety. It could be someone else to supplement the secondary. Next season, it could be another piece to supplement the secondary as the Colts are rebuilding themselves into a playoff and maybe AFC title contender. Or maybe that's our next quarterback, is in the 2026 draft that we could be giving away to the Browns by giving away our pick. The second idea is a trade for Anthony Richardson, which I saw and my eyebrows raised and I was alarmed. I don't think this is realistically anything that's going to have any chance of happening, right? But it's the idea is that the Colts need another pass rusher. The Browns need a QB. In terms of need and value, Anthony Richardson and Myles Garrett are pretty similar. You could straight up trade them. Maybe some picks get involved there. This one's too much for me as well. I think it's way too risky because I want Anthony Richardson to stick around, right? I think that he deserves another year. We'll see what the conversation is like at the end of the season. But for right now, I believe in AR. I think Anthony Richardson should be our starting quarterback in 2025, at least for this year. So this is too much for me as well. Because first of all, just fundamentally, I think we should keep Anthony Richardson. But even if I didn't, potentially not having a quarterback or having another old aging quarterback, someone like maybe Aaron Rodgers, foreshadowing to the rest of the episode and the rest of the week, bringing someone like him in, I just don't quite see a world where this is the desirable outcome, trading them straight up effectively 1-1 for one another. With the addition of Garrett, what would this do? If the Colts grab Myles Garrett, what would this do? And I just talked about how the 2 main trade ideas I've seen circulating, or the trade structures I've seen circulating, I just talked about why I don't particularly think that they would work or that they're worth it for the Colts. But if they did add Garrett, right, Indy would likely have one of the best pass rushes in the league. It would be DeForest Buckner, Myles Garrett, Grover Stewart, and Laiatu Latu. There are some big names on that pass rush. And we just saw with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl just how important having a great pass rush like that can be to your efforts of winning a Super Bowl, and how building out your offensive and defensive line first is most important. And yeah, I believe that that's probably true. With the addition of Garrett, the Colts would be stellar in a Super Bowl caliber pass rush across the board with that 4. But the question is, at what cost would we have to achieve that, right? Because that massively decreases the likelihood of us remedying the secondary, right? If we give up 2 first-round picks, then our opportunity to grab a safety or a corner in the next 2 drafts massively decreases. And certainly, it compromises the near future of possibly snagging a fresh young quarterback if things don't work out for AR, which, of course, is a very plausible outcome in the next couple of years for the Indianapolis Colts. So, again, sure, it's weighing the cost of having the Super Bowl caliber, a Super Bowl caliber pass rush, right, with those 4, Buckner, Garrett, Stewart, and Latu, and maybe potentially compromising the secondary or compromising the quarterback position. To me, it's too much risk for what we would receive with Myles Garrett. 2 firsts and a quality player like Kwity Paye is too much for me to imagine giving up. It is tempting because Garrett could be what the Colts need to lift themselves to the playoffs, right? I'm sure that if the Colts grab Myles Garrett for 2 first-round picks, the Colts will probably be in the playoffs next season. But we're trying to win Super Bowls, right? And if we're going to look to win a Super Bowl, I think this risk might not be worth the reward considering the price and considering, again, just how lofty that risk is and just how dramatic the swing of that risk is, because maybe we get Garrett and everything works out and Richardson is fantastic and we go win a Super Bowl, or Richardson struggles, the secondary is getting blown up every single week, right? And Myles Garrett is fantastic, but it's not quite enough to outweigh the struggles that we're having in other areas of the field. And then maybe that just keeps the Colts out of the playoffs entirely, and we continue to rebuild and struggle, and now we have to pay Myles Garrett $1 trillion, and then the conversation starts to talk about how Chris Ballard made yet another mistake. I still want to see us nab a safety in a free agency, or alternatively a corner that maybe fits our needs a bit more snugly in terms of a move. We keep talking about how we want a big free agency move from Chris Ballard, and Myles Garrett would be that. I just don't think it's quite the right fit for the Colts right now, considering the price, considering the risk, and considering the current state of the Colts and the state of the league. We're trying to win Super Bowls, and we're trying to get ourselves back to that point. Myles Garrett would help us a lot. I think it's more likely that Myles Garrett slots into a team like the Lions that are maybe 1 player away from elevating to a Super Bowl caliber team, right? Whether or not he gets traded is still unclear. But the Browns are trying to completely clean house and rebuild, right? And Myles Garrett's trying to win a Super Bowl. And the Colts, I don't think, are the location. Because if Myles Garrett just plugs into a pass rush that needs 1 more elite pass rusher to win a Super Bowl, like the Lions maybe it's the Bills, right? There's a lot of teams that seem like they're 1-star player like Myles Garrett away from winning it all. That's where I think Myles Garrett will go. The Colts, sure, he would elevate to a playoff team, theoretically, but we're trying to win Super Bowls, and I think right now we need to build from the ground up a little bit better rather than supplement a star into the lineup as maybe you would think would be the right idea. That's my opinion. I don't think Myles Garrett is what the Colts need right now. I don't think they'll make a move for him. It's possible. It's tempting. It's flashy. It's fun. It's interesting. I just don't think that's the right move for the Colts right now. I think Myles Garrett will either stay in Cleveland or go elsewhere, but he won't be coming to Indianapolis, in my opinion.